on behalf of this entire program, we want to offer our prayer, our empathy, our sympathy, our condolences. There's really not words strong enough for that, to the Hepner family for what they lost with Allison. Saw some of you at the funeral, obviously, and I've said this before. I said this when I got here. It would have been an honor to coach with Terry, and I never got to do that. But I've never stopped learning about him, not just because he's standing here, but Terry's book was one of the great windows into what he was all about and what that family was all about. But after being at this funeral and seeing the strength of this family, how firm their faith is in God, and the love that they have for each other, and the love that so many people have for them, it's incredible. And I can't imagine what they're dealing with. But when you look at them, it's hard not to see just incredible strength, and certainly what the impact that Hepner family has had on many communities. But even in this community, after Coach Hepner was gone, it is obvious that they've made this place a much better place, and our hearts are going to continue to go out to them forever, as everybody else's should, because they mean a lot to so many people here. A couple other things. John Laskowski. It's awesome that he's going in the Hall of Fame. It's awesome that Landon Turner's receiving the Clevenger Award today, on his birthday, actually. Those people, they grace these walls in here, and they grace the tradition of Indiana, and they epitomize what it's supposed to be like after you leave. I don't think there's any question that Landon Turner and John Laskowski made it better places, just as the other people that have won the awards, just as the other people that have gone into the Indiana Hall of Fames. They made it a better place. Well, those guys continue to give back in such a huge way. And they're not alone. Obviously, it's one of the great things about being at Indiana is the way that the former players, certainly so many of the former coaches and the managers, the way that they give back and care about the program. So it's extra special when somebody gets honored for what they did here and what they continue to do. So we want to say thank you and congratulations to them. And then I want to add something on the football team. I know they had a tough game last week, and this is something that's just on my mind, that there's a different spirit about that group. They lost a lot of key guys. I mean, I read a story where Nate Sudfeld was kept on the active roster because they wanted to put him in the practice squad where somebody else could grab him, and they drafted him in the 7th round. That doesn't happen everywhere. You know, so many NFL teams now carry 2 quarterbacks, and if they put a guy on the practice squad, he can be picked up by anybody, so they don't really have that safety net. Darius Latham making the Raiders. I mean, looking at with the Howard kid getting ready to do what he's going to do with the Bears. They lost some really, really good players, and just seeing it, you know, from afar. You guys see it far closer than I do, and obviously we're not over there as coaches and players, but there's a real spirit about that group, and there's a resiliency about them, and I think that's going to continue to come out. Obviously, they're playing great teams in this league, and Michigan State doesn't take a backseat to anybody tomorrow night, but I feel really good as a coach and as somebody that studies leadership and somebody that really tries to look at people and see, are they really committed and serious about getting better with one another? And I think that football team has that, and I hope that it manifests itself in victories. And I hope that the fans, it pains everybody, you know, when people leave early, and because that's not what Indiana's about. I mean, and when we were really struggling at times, that people weren't leaving us. That's why we made so many good comebacks. Well, that team, and again, this is just me. No one's, I mean, if somebody told me to say it, I probably wouldn't say it, right? I mean, this is just me looking at it from the outside, you know, and to me, we've got to keep supporting that team. And because I'm going to be asking for the same thing when we get into this season. And we have not had a healthy team yet. All right, that goes from when the season ended in Philadelphia to when we get started today, and at times this summer, well, we never went up and down the court 5-on-5 this summer because we didn't have enough healthy guys to do that. We got better, we had great workouts, everybody's improved, but we haven't had that. So like teams, and I say that not in comparison with football, but in the sense that teams take different steps, and you don't get to skip any step. You know, some team might have X amount of steps, this team might have X amount of steps. Everybody has X amount of steps, and none of us can predetermine them. And none of us can really know what they are. And unfortunately in life sometimes every step we take or every step we take back, we look at it with an exclamation point rather than just part of the dash, like we're continuing to move forward. And we're gonna need it. And look at what soccer's doing this week. They're having a great week. They've had a couple moments where it could have gone either way with a loss or a tie. Everybody needs it in sports, and one of the things, they need it in life, but one of the great things about being at Indiana is that we're with such a knowledgeable fan base that has such great passion. And I hope that people will absolutely stay committed to those games and to keep supporting those guys, because you look back at them and there's just a little bit different look. And I know there's some youth over there, and I know there's some experience over there, and they've got to all come together, and they've got to replace some key positions like everybody knows, but I think there's a real spirit to it. And as far as our team, and then I'll open it up, I like our spirit. I think we have a really good team energy, and we're getting ready to start practice in less than an hour. And it's almost like the season never ends. These guys, we got beat on a Friday. Well, I guess it was Saturday morning by the time it was over in Philadelphia. And I get ready to go out and recruit on Tuesday. And there had to be 8 or 9 guys in the gym that Tuesday. I know I've said that before, but there was nobody making them be in there. And we started our workouts with James and with Josh early. And then got going that week. They were excited to be in there. They wanted to be in the gym. And I think that's continued to really growing titanic efforts for us this off season. It's we have a team of guys that really, really are committed to being in that gym, getting better, doing the work, the spirit. You see some of it with social media and the Instagrams and the videos that go out, but being around it on a daily basis, there's a real camaraderie developing, and it's such a big deal because we lost so much. We lost so much in the form of senior leadership. We lost so much in the form of experience. And not just experience of age, but experience of going through so many things. So now, you know, especially with Colin going down, which it's hard. I mean, it's just hard. And I just love that kid. And he's been through so much that I know you're gonna ask me about timelines. I don't have a timeline, okay? Because I'm most concerned right now about his mindset. He just got back here. And that young guy was putting so much into getting ready to be our senior leader. And we're gonna need it. We're gonna need that right now. But most importantly, we gotta help lead him, because he's been through some traumatic injuries in his life. And he comes down and plants his foot. I mean, playing excellent, was on just a 2-3 week run of playing as good as he's played for us. And remember now, we're talking about a guy that played 3 NCAA tournament games with a broken right wrist and made shots. The only time he used his right hand other than the day before the North Carolina game was when they put the shot in him, 12 minutes. You know, obviously I'm not the doctor, but the doctors approved all of it and put it together. I mean, so the level of toughness that he has is incredible. And he's a real, he's not a point guard, but he does so many things for us with moving without the ball, moving the ball, making plays. We put together over the last couple of weeks, which we'll start introducing to the team today, concept tapes, you know, offensive and defensive concept tapes, not just play tapes, and not highlight tapes certainly, but concept tapes. He's probably 70% of the clips, you know, and this was before the injury. So our biggest concern with him and with this whole team is everybody continuing to develop this right mindset. I see the rankings, I see the predictions. None of that has anything to do with what we're trying to do right now. We've got to get a mindset that continues to grow as we start to get into these practices. We've got to learn to play up and down the court because we haven't done that. We've got to really integrate some guys. Rob just got cleared last Monday. I believe it was last Monday. James has been cleared for a couple of weeks. Juwan Morgan is not cleared, at least for a few more weeks, at the very least. And certainly Colin's timetable is not even remotely where we could look at it yet and see that. So we've got a lot to overcome, but I love working with them. I'm excited for the practices. Really want to see Colin, no matter how this goes, you know, it's two things hit. He's a graduate. I mean, he's a graduate of Indiana. and he's entering his senior year, and it seems like he's been here for so long. Well, it seems like he's been here for so long because we've been recruiting him since the 8th grade. Knew about him in the 8th grade. We weren't recruiting him in the 8th grade. I guess we recruited him in the 9th grade. But you just feel for him. And what I want is I want to see him just, no matter what happens with this right now, that he just continues to build that leadership and that mindset that he can overcome anything and that he can bring a lot of value. And at the same time, we're going to have to bring a lot of value to him in the sense of helping him through tough days as he gets into his rehabilitation. And hopefully we just keep getting better at the game, keep getting better at the details, and we keep understanding that we're only going to go as far as our ability to make each other better. We're only going to go as far as our ability to really have really good team defense. We're only going to go as far as our ability to not only move the ball quickly, but move without the ball, which is something now when you take Colin out, when you remove Troy, okay, when you remove the fact that Yogi not only could drive it, but he got to the point where he's so good at moving without it. And Nick is one of the best ball movers I've ever coached. And the fact that Max provided so much. It's really easy to say, well, Max was here 1 year. That 1 year was incredibly impactful. He went from making 11 threes in 3 years at Michigan and 26% career three-point shooting to 46% shooting, making 29. We're going to miss that. We're going to miss that. But the exciting part, I'm not doing a woe is me. The exciting part is we get to keep building on that as we go. But it is going to take, they're just like in football, it's the same thing in basketball. I have no idea how many steps it's going to take for us to really grow and get to be good. But they're there, and we just got to take them, as corny as it sounds, one step at a time, not knowing how big one is, not knowing how steep one is, not knowing how small one is, but just take it and continue to grow and get better, and we get started at it in a little bit. So, for you, those of you on the word count, I did not plan to have that, but just kind of played into it, so go ahead.
Tom, one of the keys last year to have the success was improvement in defense. As you look at this team defensively, what's the potential?
Well, again, I didn't cover this. Freddie McSwain is not able to go right now, and one of the things, because he had knee surgery, and he's going to be back fairly soon, but he had to have some stuff that he'd had issues in the past before he ever got here, and it flared back up, so we had to get that taken care of, and so he's a couple weeks away from going, and I add that because that's the kind of guy, he comes in and he makes our defense better. Okay, he looks like a NFL tight end. Came in here and set the squat record, for Tim Garl's been here for 98 years, so whatever, all that, no, he's been here 36 years. Don't print 98, but his hair still looks like he just got here. But he...
For those who have hair.
Yeah, well, you did that to yourself. I wouldn't have done that, okay. Freddie's really strong, he's quick, he's active and athletic. He's going to make our defense better. I think when we looked at this season, going into the season, we look at a team that can pressure more. We can get to three-quarter court type of pressure, some full court pressure. I think we're going to have the ability to do a lot more switching with this team. All right, I think we're going to be able to do that. And it's going to be really, really important that we talk, right? We lost some really, really knowledgeable, experienced guys, and Colin takes a backseat to no one on that, right now with what he brought, because they had such awareness. So, we have the athleticism, we have the strength, we have the length. We've got to make sure we have the awareness. We've got to make sure we have the communication. And we got to make sure that we can sniff things out, and that's going to come into our ball screen defense, our post defense. I mentioned the full court pressure, the three-quarter court pressure, but how we keep the ball on the side. And we got to really learn how to use our length. And we had guys last year that once Jawan and OG really learned how to use their length, they became tremendous mainstays for our team. Well, we've got to have other guys do the same thing, and those guys take it up even another notch. So I think I said back at Huber Farms that OG texted me one night that wanted to, can I guard point guards this year? Well, absolutely, you can. But we've got to have a team of guys that can switch out and guard those kind of people.
So you talk about that guard rotation.
I'm talking about guard rotation.
Well, but sorry.
I have no idea what that would be right.
You mentioned it at Huber is what I meant. But
you've
got James back, you've got Rob back. I know you're kind of easing those guys in to maybe sort of full go or whatever you want to say, but I guess what's the luxury of having two guys that have the banked reps, the game, I mean, just the total number of games and minutes they've played for their age as you kind of try to figure out what things are going to look
Well,
like?
especially in Rob, it's big. It's huge because last year outside of Yogi, he was our best perimeter defender, or guard defender. OG certainly developed into that as well. And everybody gets better here. I mean, Nick Zeisloff was doing some tremendous things defensively, in the last month and a half of the season, especially going into the tournament. And Marcus Page took care of all of us a little bit in that, but Nick helped really get us better. And what happened is, when Rob went down, guys had to step up. When James went down, guys had to step up. What has to happen now is those guys have got to learn from what they missed. They've got to take those next steps of confidence that come from doing it time and time again. They've got to not only do it, they've got to bring leadership to the younger guys, but they've got to come out and it's going to be, they've missed a lot of time. So like we're in a totally different, we'd have already practiced this morning and then we get ready to go tonight. This was a year ago, right? But like, we've got to tailor make this thing. We can't be in too much of a rush with these guys. I mean, it's certainly not going to be the level of full court basketball that we would be used to start the season, because so many guys have not played that, for us, because we've trained running wise, cardiovascular wise, but we haven't played. So those guys fit into that. So it helps. Having Josh helps. He's in a completely different role. Curtis and Devontae have done an excellent job of coming in here and establishing themselves. Zach McRoberts has gained probably upwards of 28, 29 pounds since he got here, but since he joined the team in May. All of a sudden with Colin down, his ability and his chance to move up rolls up. Grant Galen has come in and established that he can shoot the ball, that he's going to work, that he's not going to take a backseat to anybody on the work ethic. He hasn't had to be behind, those type of things. And then we integrate Duran and Freddie. We could talk all day about who we have to integrate. I mean, Duran took a test on a Friday. His last exam back in Denver, got on a plane at midnight, was here in the middle of the night Sunday, started classes Monday, never looked back. And at the meantime, he's had to deal with a couple injury situations that have shut him down from time to time. So we've got a long way to go with getting any type of depth, but those guys, along with Josh, have got to wear a lot of hats for us, and showing confidence early on that they've improved, especially on the defensive end and especially on the ball movement, moving without the ball in, going to be really big.
With Duran not here, Duran not available this summer, how perimeter focused was Thomas and what he did?
Well, two things. We again, I think one of the strengths of this program is that when you're down for a certain reason, injury, it's not like you just go sit on the side and ride the bike. I mean, we start with the chair in the sense of the shooting, the passing, the ball handling. I mean, there's a real progression to it. So we didn't have the guys that could go against Thomas, because OG wasn't healthy this summer. OG was dealing with a groin injury that he's recovered from to the point where he's live, but he wasn't live this summer. And live means contact, right? And live means up and down. Live doesn't mean working out and getting better at their skills, which they did. So what we would do is we would tailor make half the week to Thomas, just having to deal with the strength coaches hitting him with pads, the managers and graduate managers swiping at the ball, short burst workouts that would be really focused on his inside play, on his ability to run out and set ball screens. And then the other times he was kind of in the mode with everybody else, working on his shooting, working on the ball handling, working on the pick and roll, working on coming off screens, completely training him like a guard, like we did with Cody, like we did with Noah, and like we want to do with him. And then the next step would be him guarding those people in the summer, which has improved. But again, it's improved in a half-court 1-on-1, 2-on-2 to 3-on-3 situation. We have no idea how it's going to transfer to the court yet in a 5-on-5. So he got better with his post game. He's really gotten better athletically. And in 14 and a half months, his vertical's gone up 13 inches. I mean, I've never been around anybody that's done that. And his squat has gone up to almost jumped 200 pounds since he got here last June. So again, one of the biggest need areas for him were feet and lower body, right? Quicker feet, lift his feet, lower body being stronger. He's well on the way to doing that. Well, now we got to apply it to the court, where it actually has to go against other people like his size. And certainly no sooner than when we get to Hawaii, he'll be dealing with that.
You didn't want to mention timelines, but is a medical redshirt a feasible option in the long term?
Oh, long term if it gets to that. But absolutely. But I mean, again, he's a senior. I mean, it's got to be something that down the road that he would want. It's too early. You can speculate the moment it happens, right? But it's too early to put a real timeline on exactly what we're dealing with. Let's see how he responds, because he is a senior. Let's see how he responds to the rehabilitation. But that'd be on the table for sure down the road. But I'm more concerned, like I said, rather than timelines and looking down the road at that, is him getting his mindset, because he was in a great place when he got hurt. And he was in a great place of leadership, skill level. He's been so valuable to us. I mean, he's been so valuable. And now we've got to find a way, as he recovers, for that value to continue to be there when we're, as a leader, as a coach. I mean, this is not a guy who's going to be sitting at the end of the bench. He's going to be up there and have a real active role with us. And we've got to, but everything's been moving so fast, we haven't really had a chance to really dive into that. We just got back. So that's a down the road, way down the road type situation for us.
What are you hoping to accomplish the first couple of weeks in practice?
Oh, there's so much. I think getting established, a few changes in how we orchestrate the drills, what we do in the 3-on-3, 4-on-4, because we are so young at so many key spots. And there's no question my mindset's changed a little bit since the injury with Colin, because, I mean, we've really always tried to develop this. Colin's been a coach on the floor and a guy that could do drills. I treated him like a senior last year. When Yogi, treated Troy like that as well, but Troy, Yogi, Nick, Max was new. Max could provide leadership in other ways, but I've always tried to make sure those guys can put things in for us. We wouldn't call them captains practices. I wouldn't say that, but they're like those moments, where they're shooting with guys. Okay, let's put this drill in, let's put that drill in, and it kind of creates leadership. We don't have many guys that have done that now. So I think we're gonna have to slow it down. All right, this is one of the earlier year type things of slowing down what we're trying to get in, make sure we are really, really detailed and focused on. I get moving so fast with the concepts, especially on offense, and there's so many other things that we've started to add throughout the summer to what we're already doing. I think you start with where you can be a better coach. I think you look at where you can coach your team even better than what it is, and you never pick up from where you left off, ever. And the moment you think you've done that is the moment you're giving the advantage to someone else. So we've got to really slow it down, and I'm going to need that help from the coaches, because I'm not great at slowing it down. But I've got to really recognize we've got a very not a fragile group, but young, because they just haven't been through it. They don't have the experience of it. So got to take care of the ball better. There's no question about that. We've got to get our decision making right. We've got to get our ball movement right. We've got to get our moving without the ball right. We cannot try to make plays that aren't there, and we've got to get that established early. And we've got to make sure that our rebounding is really high on both ends. We should have a chance to have a tremendous offensive rebounding team. And defensive rebounding, we got to make sure we're blocking out, make sure that we're physical. We lost, Yogi might as well have been 6'9" with the way he hit people, right? I mean, that's the level of toughness that he brought to the table when he put a body on somebody. Well, we've got to get that established, especially the guys coming off injuries. So eventually in 2 weeks, I'd like to say that our fast break and our going after made baskets is going to be much better. I have not put the break in one single ounce yet. I've never had it like that. We've been focused on the other stuff. And then I think what we're going to really try to do with this team is get some of the continuity down before we really, really, really start getting the cerebral spacing and the creative packages and stuff like that. We got to get some of our basic things down. But we found some places that we can be a lot better on the offensive and defensive end. And I think it's up to me and the coaches to make sure we're adhering to that constantly in how we set up practice. And we can get way better moving without the ball. We can get way better at using more floor space. We can get way better at going into the post. We can get way better at taking care of the ball. We can get way better on our weak side defense. We can get way better at our defensive rebounding. There's a long list. So hopefully at the end of 2 weeks we feel like we made a dent in, or got the introduction done and made a dent in some of that.
Okay, Coach.
One more, go ahead, then I'll go.
Okay. Tom, what's the next step? What's the key for James to really get him?
Get confidence, right? I mean, just confidence in back playing. And I'm not trying to make light of the situation at all with this group, but like, I have not seen them go up and down since we were at North Carolina, and that was different. I mean, again, in Philadelphia against North Carolina, it's a different group. It's a much different group. So, just taking time on that. But him making the game simple, him getting better at moving without the ball, him being ready to shoot. Not everybody coming out and trying to show how much better they are at the things that they've worked at, because they are. I mean, we have added some real skill, I have no doubt. But now we've got to transfer it to live, right? And the best way to do that is to make it as simple as possible. Go ahead, Alex.
I'm good. I was going to
Okay, all right, thank you. See you. Yeah.